Romance of Sui and Tang Dynasties Chapter 52.
So Prince Qin, Lu Wenjing, and Zhu Yifu are finally on the run. They're safe, but they're exposed. And almost immediately, Prince Qin's mind goes to the huge hole in his roster.
General Qin Shubao.
Exactly. He speaks about Shubao's character with this almost reverent admiration.
He does. He wants more than just a talented general. He wants a figurehead of integrity. He even references that famous line, "The deep 1,000-foot water of Peach Blossom Pool is not as deep as Wang Lun's farewell."
Which is not just poetry, right?
No, not at all. It's a statement. It's saying that Qin Shubao's loyalty, once you have it, would be more profound, more reliable than any river. That's why getting him is just.
Yeah.
It's non-negotiable.
But Shubao is serving the rival Wei forces, and even though he has sympathy for the Tang cause, the sources through Lu Wenjing's analysis lay out 4 specific, almost insurmountable barriers to him just switching sides.
And this is where it gets really complicated.
Yeah.
The first barrier is, well, it's about perception, purely strategic. Lu Wenjing notes that the Wei forces are strong right now. The sources use the phrase Wei Shi Fang Qi.
Which means?
It means Wei's momentum is red hot. So for Shubao to defect right now, it would look less like a principled choice and more like, foolishly abandoning a winning team.
That makes sense. Your defection looks reckless. But was that strength real? Or was it just perception, politically cultivated to keep generals like him in line?
That is the critical question.
Yep.
Often that perceived strength is the glue holding everything together. If a key figure like Shubao leaves, the whole facade just crumbles. So the Wei court had every reason to project that power. Then the second barrier is much more personal. It's relational. Many of these key military brothers, they all started their careers together at Wagangzai.
The Wagong Brotherhood. Okay, so this is a loyalty that runs deeper than a paycheck.
Precisely. It's a shared history, a shared struggle. And the third point makes that even more dramatic. Their sworn leader is Shan Xiangshen, and they are bound by a death oath Xin Tongshen Si.
A death oath.
Yeah. To break that vow isn't just a political mistake. It's a profound personal betrayal.
So you're not just betraying a general, you're breaking a sacred vow in front of everyone. That's an impossible thing to ask a man of honor to do.
It is. And the final point Lu Wenjing raises is about the internal politics. The recent brutal execution of General Zai Rang had already created all this disunity and mistrust.
So if Shubao leaves now,
he risks being seen as just capitalizing on that fracture, proving the old brotherhood is really and truly dead.
Wow. Okay, so 4 huge obstacles. Strategic appearances, personal loyalty oaths, brotherhood. It sounds politically impossible to solve through any normal channels. And Prince Qin, he's discouraged. He thinks Shubao can never be swayed.
And that despair is the perfect setup for the solution. Because just when Prince Qin feels Shubao is totally unreachable, Zhu Yifu, the advisor who planned the escape, he steps forward with this cold-blooded solution.
He looks past all the military strategy.
He does. He looks past the oaths and focuses on the man's heart.
Let's unpack this strategy, because it is just an astonishing way to weaponize virtue. Zhu Yifu doesn't appeal to ambition or skill. He goes for the one thing greater than the oath of brotherhood.
His extreme filial devotion. He identifies that Qin Shubao is defined by Tang Xing's Zixiao, an extreme devotion to his mother, the Taifuran. And crucially, Zhu Yifu points out that his mother, who's almost 70, and his wife, they're living at Wagangzai.
And the sources are clear about their security, right? They're not just there, they're guarded.
Oh yes, they're specifically protected inside the mountain fortress by 2 trusted generals, Yujinda and Lian Juzin. So you can't just march in.
The fortress is the problem.
Exactly. Which means the extraction has to be voluntary. It has to be built on deception. And the whole plan centers on the mother's upcoming 70th birthday party.
The ultimate political fabrication, the fake Lady Luo.
The specifics are just genius. They'll pretend to be the wife of General Luo Yi, who is Qin Shubao's maternal cousin. They use that specific close family tie.
So it's believable.
Very believable. The fake Lady Luo will say she's traveling to Tianzu on a pilgrimage to offer incense, and she'll invite the mother onto a fancy boat for a private family reunion.
A birthday, a reunion, the prestige of a close relative. It's the perfect emotional cocktail designed to make the mother willingly leave the fortress. She thinks she's safe with family.
And the outcome is calculated to be immediate. Once she's lured away and brought to Chang'an, Qin Shubao has no choice. He has to defect. Zhu Yifu even frames it with a powerful historical parallel. He says Shubao will rush to them like Shu Shu running to Cao Cao.
And for anyone who doesn't have that reference, that parallel is so important. Shu Shu was a brilliant advisor who was forced to serve the rival Cao Cao. Why?
Yeah.
Because Cao Cao had captured his mother.
It explicitly foreshadows the leverage they'll have. They're predicting, correctly, that filial duty will trump everything else, political loyalty, military oaths, all of it. It's a blueprint for emotional blackmail, and Prince Qin signs off on it instantly. The stakes are just too high.
And all this high-stakes planning is happening while the group is still on the move, trying to get to the safety of Balanquan. The sources also weave in this surprising personal dimension.
Right, the journey itself is solidifying the loyalty of his rescuers. And it's deepening the bond between Prince Qin and Zhu Huiying, the daughter of the plan's architect.
The romantic detail is really memorable. While they're riding, Zhu Huiying loses one of her boots. Prince Qin immediately turns his horse around to get it, and he catches a glimpse of her narrow golden lotus foot.
And that small act, that personal service against this backdrop of huge political danger, that's what's cited as cementing their bond. It shows that their shared peril had already, intertwined their souls.
It's a great little narrative beat. So when they finally get to Balangchuan, the reception is huge. They're greeted by these major figures, astrologers Yuan Tiangang and Li Chunfeng, the strategist Li Jing.
And Prince Qin basically admits he should have listened to them earlier. It signals he's ready to trust these powerful minds from now on.
It's the official moment of vindication for the whole team. And the rewards? They come fast. Prince Qin asks Zhu Yufu and Qiong to wait at the post station while he goes to report to his father, the emperor.
And the emperor is just full of gratitude. He swears to engrave their names on his heart, at first talking about the 3 men who started the rescue effort. But the immediate and tangible honors go to the people who are right there.
Let's talk about those specifics, especially for Huiying, because her titles are, well, they're revolutionary for a woman of this era. Yu Yufu is named Upper Senior Counselor. A big deal, but, fairly standard for a chief advisor.
Her reward, though, is a game changer. Yu Huiying gets a new name, Xu Huifi, and she's granted the rank of first-rank lady.
Which makes her an official consort high up in the hierarchy, a huge political elevation.
But that's not even the most critical part.
Right. The detail that tells you everything about her strategic value is her function. She is appointed to assist with military affairs.
Genzan Shifu Zhongji Shiwu.
So not just a title, but an actual military role.
It's extremely rare. She's not just a royal wife. She's given a formal advisory role in the Western Military Command. It's official validation that her mind, her strategic thinking during the escape, is now a formal asset to Prince Qin's war machine.
He's leveraging her talent for the battles to come.
Absolutely.
So the moment of triumph ends, and the focus snaps right back to the strategic problem. Prince Qin shows the emperor the thank you letter from Qin Shubao, reminding his father that this loyal man is still serving the enemy.
And the emperor marvels at how much they owe Shubao, which is all the political cover Prince Qin needs. He assures his father he has a good strategy to get him, and immediately. What's fascinating here is the speed.
There is zero downtime. They don't wait a month. They don't celebrate for weeks. Qin Shubao is considered essential for the next phase, so they mobilize within days.
And the team for the mission reflects just how high stakes this is. Prince Qin tasks 2 key figures, Li Jing, the famous strategist, and Xu Yifu, the architect of the whole plot.
Pairing the established general with the brilliant tactician.
You ensure both operational security and flawless execution of the deception.
And the logistics. Bring in 2,000 soldiers and palace maids. Why do you need 2,000 soldiers just to trick one elderly woman onto a boat?
That force is essential for a couple of reasons. First, to maintain the illusion of Lady Luo being a high-ranking noble on a pilgrimage, you need all the pomp and circumstance. The palace maids provide that realism.
Okay.
But second, and more importantly, they are operating near a rival fortress, Wigang. Those 2,000 soldiers are the cover. They're the protection for the convoy if they're challenged or if the whole thing goes wrong and they have to fight their way out with the mother.
So they're basically launching a covert military operation under the cover of a high society family visit.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
Their mission is to go to Weigang and trick the Qin mother out of the fortress. The stability of the entire Tang dynasty at this moment rests not on a siege, but on the successful emotional manipulation of an old woman's 70th birthday.
Li Mi, or Wei Gong, he was doing pretty well for himself before this.
Oh, absolutely. He had just achieved a major military success. He'd captured a rival warlord, Kai Gong, issued a pardon. It was basically a victory lap.
So the smart move would be to go home and consolidate power.
That's what everyone expected. But he didn't.
He did.
No. He makes this Really catastrophic error in judgment. He decides to tour the Hebei region instead of securing his base.
And that overconfidence just bites him immediately.
Almost instantly. He suffers a really significant military defeat at Genkingshan.
Against who?
A general named Wang Zong who's serving the king of Xia. And the sources make a point of this detail. Li Mi himself is wounded by a stray arrow.
Oof.
Yeah, right in his left arm. So he's demoralized, he's physically wounded, and he's militarily weakened.
A wounded warlord is bad enough, but then he gets hit with a double whammy, the political catastrophe back home, the jailbreak.
Right. Talk about a perfect storm. The defeat in the field, coupled with this massive political failure in the capital. It was just too much.
And the reports confirm that the jail warden, a guy named Zhu Liban, had illegally released two incredibly important people.
Massively important. Prince Qin, who you'll know as Lu Shimin, the future Tang emperor.
His biggest rival?
His biggest, most dangerous rival. Another key figure, Lu Wenjing. They just fled back to their own country to get government jobs.
Okay, let's pause on that because this isn't just any jailbreak. This is like losing your number one public enemy.
It's devastating, and it leads directly to this intense paranoia.
I can imagine.
Li Mei's authority is suddenly being questioned from all sides. So when he finally gets back to Qiong, he isn't just angry, he is panicked. And he's looking for scapegoats.
And his rage is aimed squarely at his own generals.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Wei Zhang, Xu Shibo, and crucially for our story, Qin Sheng.
So was this rational at all? Or was he just lashing out?
It was pure reactive panic. He just excoriates them, accuses them of this stunning list of offenses.
Like what?
Lack of vigilance, collusion, accepting bribes, defying discipline. You name it. Basically, he's convinced they must have helped his rival escape.
And he wanted them dead.
Immediately executed. This wasn't about justice. It was about restoring face through violence.
But he gets talked down.
Cooler heads prevailed. His advisors, Zhu Junyan and Jia Runfu, persuade him to commute the death sentence.
So instead of execution, they're just imprisoned.
Thrown into the southern prison, which the locals called Nan Lao, and their future, sources say, was completely dependent on earning redemption later through, military merit.
And that detail right there is what you have to hold on to. Qiong is unjustly imprisoned for essentially letting Li Mi's biggest enemy escape.
An injustice which is the direct fuel for this daring rescue attempt that follows.
Because the man Li Mi hates most, Prince Qin, is now massively indebted to the man he just threw in jail.
Exactly. And with Qin Qiong stuck in Nan Lao, who's watching out for his family, his elderly mother, his young son.
It creates the perfect opening.
The perfect vulnerability for this rescue operation to exploit.
Okay, let's pivot. Segment 2, the invitation. With the motivation set, how do they actually pull off this massive deception at Wagam?
Well, the target is obviously Qin Mu, Qin Qiong's mother. She's nearly 70 years old, living this relatively quiet life at Wagan with her daughter-in-law and her young grandson, Sun Huaiyu.
And she's missing her son desperately, which makes her emotionally vulnerable.
Right. And into that emotional vacuum steps this very suspicious but highly polished setup. A servant announces messengers from a General Luo.
A relative they haven't heard from in years.
A decade, actually. Qin Mu specifically notes they hadn't heard from this part of the family since her 60th birthday. So she's immediately thinking, why now?
But she has an explanation that makes sense to her.
Yeah, she figures it must be about her upcoming 70th birthday. It's an easy, familial explanation for a very strange, very sudden visit.
Let's talk about the precision of this deception, because this is where you can really see the resources of Prince Qin's faction shining through.
It was meticulous. The envoys were two officers, the Yuchi brothers, Nan and Bei. They had 4 elegantly dressed female attendants, and they carried what the sources call a private gift.
And the cover story was perfect.
Flawless. The general's wife, Mrs. Luo, was just passing by on a pilgrimage and wanted to meet Qin Mu on her boat. Simple, elegant, plausible.
Okay, I have to ask, isn't naming the envoys a little on the nose? It feels like a giveaway.
It does seem a bit neat to us, I agree. But you have to think that kind of symmetry might have actually lent it an air of authority back then, a kind of formality that Li Mi's rough-and-tumble soldiers wouldn't question.
And what they definitely didn't question was the gift.
No, not at all. This wasn't some token gesture. This was designed to just overwhelm and impress the local security.
The soldiers who were supposed to be guarding the family?
It was shockingly extravagant. The source says it was rare treasures and exotic artifacts worth 2,000 or 3,000 gold pieces. So you have to imagine the scene. These bandit-turned soldiers like Yu Junda and Lian Juzhen were left, and I'm quoting here, eye-locked and jaw-dropping.
That kind of wealth just buys you instant legitimacy.
It absolutely does.
Hmm.
But even so, Qin was still hesitant.
So what pushes her to accept?
It was the deliberation. And fortunately for the plotters, Cheng Ziqi's mother, or Cheng Bu, was there. And she argues passionately for them to accept.
On what grounds?
Basically, social standing. She stresses the immense value of maintaining kinship with such a high-ranking, wealthy family. It's a political and social necessity.
And then one of Li Mi's own men accidentally seals the deal.
He does. The officer, Lian Zhijin, makes a huge mistake. He thinks he recognizes the Yuqi brothers, the officers from the 60th birthday party 10 years ago.
So he confirms their identity for them.
He mistakenly confirms it, and once an internal guard says they're legitimate, Qin Mu's suspicion is just. It's overridden. The decision is made.
So the family agrees to go. Qin Mu, Cheng Mu, the daughter-in-law, and Yang Huayu. They're escorted by Lian Zhizhen and 30 or 40 of Li Mi's soldiers.
Which brings us to the journey and the masterful removal of that security detail.
The final stage of the plan.
Right. The procession was large, 12 or 13 stand chairs, but they only travel about 4 kilometers or 10 li down to the river.
And waiting for them are these massive ships.
2 huge ships and many smaller ones. The scene was perfectly set for the final act.
And this is where we get the first hint that something is really wrong. And it comes from the grandson, Huayu.
It's an incredible moment in the source material.
Yeah.
The welcomer is this beautifully dressed young woman, supposedly the general's second wife. But then another person, a man named Bai Shandao, rushes out to look.
And the boy reacts.
Instantly. Huayu, who's still just a kid, he glares, bares his teeth, and shouts at the man. And it startles Bai Shandao so badly he just retreats back into the cabin.
Wow. A true tiger cub, as the source calls him.
Yeah, Li Jing, who is actually the mastermind watching for the ship's tower, he immediately recognizes him as Qin Shubao's son. He says the boy inherited his father's spirit.
So Huayu must have sensed something was off, a flaw in the disguise.
Something. His demeanor, his uniform, some kind of danger signal that only he picked up on.
The second they're on board, the operation kicks into high gear.
Exactly. The escorts, Lian Zhizhen and his soldiers, they're immediately dismissed, told to come back for pickup in 2 days.
Which isolates the family completely. No more state protection.
Gone. But they still need to handle the boy, Huayu, who's already shown he's sharp.
Right. They have to get him on their side before the ships leave.
Absolutely essential. So Li Jing, who the family knew as Li Yaoshi, he pulls the boy aside. He shows him a letter from his father, Qin Qiong.
His father's handwriting.
Yep. And he identifies himself as his father's old acquaintance. Seeing the letter, the boy's suspicion just melts away. It's replaced with respect and, most importantly, silence.
And with that, the operation goes live.
3 cannon shots, the ships open sail, and they're gone. That speed must have just stunned the guards left on the shore.
I'll say.
Lian Zhizhen was instantly suspicious, of course. He ends up staying overnight on another boat, where the whole plan is explained to him. It eases his mind about their safety. But by then,
He's helpless.
utterly helpless. He's been separated from his duty, the family is gone, and the deed is done.
Which brings us to the big reveal. The moment they learn who their real rescuers are and the massive political significance of what just happened.
That moment of truth comes that same night, once they're well underway. The second wife, the consort Zhu, reveals everything to Mrs. Zhang, the daughter-in-law.
And this detail changes everything. She isn't related to General Luo at all.
Not in the slightest. She is a concubine of Prince Qin, Li Shimin. They were rescued not by family, but by their son's most powerful patron.
That is a seismic political shift. They've just defected, essentially.
Pretty much. The family immediately reperforms the proper greetings, confirming their new allegiance to the rising Tang faction.
And the motive wasn't just random kindness. It was about repaying a colossal debt.
Immense gratitude. The consort is very explicit about this. She says it's for Prince Qin's long-standing debt to Qin Qiong. She mentions 2 specific acts.
Okay.
First, some earlier aid Qin Qiong gave to Prince Qin's father. But more importantly...
Let me guess. The escape from the southern prison.
Exactly. She specifically mentions Qin Qiong's design to let Prince Qin escape. The very act that got Qin Qiong imprisoned in the first place.
Li Mi's punishment is directly connected to the debt that Li Shimin is now repaying. He's actively poaching his general.
He is. And the question of how they pulled off such a perfect impersonation comes up.
How did they do it? It was so specific.
The consort explained that her own father had served as the Yuzhou military governor for several years.
Inside knowledge.
The best kind. He was intimately familiar with Marshal Luo's household, his messengers, the protocols for gifts, everything. That's how they could impersonate the Yuchi brothers, Nan and Bei, so perfectly.
It was intelligence warfare, executed with historical precision. Brilliant.
And as often happens in these situations, there's one person who is conveniently kept out of the loop.
Chengmu, the one who argued so hard for them to go.
The very one. She drank a bit too much wine at the celebration dinner and conveniently slept through the entire midnight revelation.
For security reasons, I'm sure.
They chose to keep her in the dark entirely. But the danger wasn't over, and Qinmu knew it. She shows real political awareness here.
She realizes her son is still in danger back in Jinyang.
Right. She points out that Li Mi's power hasn't completely declined yet. Her immediate concern is simple. Qiong has to know they're safe.
So he won't be blackmailed or worry himself sick.
Exactly. She insists a messenger be sent to Jinyang immediately to tell him his family has been extracted. The consort agrees, but stresses, absolute secrecy from the still unaware Chengmu.
This is where the story takes a sharp turn into the Li Jing is on his vessel. Scouts deliver this terrifying report, 30 to 40 approaching ships, and they're flying the rival Wei family flag.
It's an immediate threat, but his reaction isn't panic.
Yeah.
It's something else.
It's calculated. It sets the stage for this deliberate, dramatic test of character for a captured pirate who, as it turns out, is a crucial player named Jia Runfu.
What's so fascinating here is the sheer density of information that flows from this one captive.
Nah.
I mean, you'd think a deep dive into historical conflict means big siege battles.
Right, massive armies.
But often the real failure is in the tiny details, the logistics, the counsel that's given, and the counsel that's ignored. This moment for Li Jing is a full 360-degree assessment of his enemy.
Okay, so let's unpack this opening scene then. Li Jing is on the boat, key figures like Qin Mother are with him, and the scouts report those vessels are closing in fast.
But instead of preparing to this, huge, destructive naval battle, Li Jing gives an order that tells you everything about his priorities.
He wants intelligence, he wants talent, not just destruction.
Exactly. His command to his general, the one who, by the way, was good at impersonations, it was so specific.
He says, do not kill, but somehow bind and bring them to me.
I mean, that's not a general who wants to sink enemy ships. That's a general who wants a prisoner, and probably an important one.
It's a huge strategic signal, right? He's playing the long game.
He is. And the person they capture is Jia He, or Jia Runfu, who, as we find out pretty quickly, was on a vital mission. This capture is just a massive stroke of luck for the Tang.
And the interrogation, it doesn't even start with military secrets.
No, it starts with money, with resources.
Yeah.
Jia Renfo reveals he was sent by Li Mi to Wang Shichong to demand repayment of a huge debt, 20,000 hu of grain.
Okay, let's just pause on that number, 20,000 hu. For anyone who, doesn't track ancient Chinese measurements, a hu is, it's massive.
It's huge.
We're talking about tens of thousands of tons of critical provisions. This wasn't some casual loan. It was a military-level transaction that would have seriously drained Li Mi's own resources.
Exactly. It was a massive strategic gamble, and Li Jing just immediately dissects it. His critique is so sharp, so lacerating. He calls Wang Shichong cruel and narrow-minded.
A guy who's always looking to take what belongs to others.
Right. So Li Mi, by giving this guy grain when they were, both rivals fighting for power, he basically committed strategic suicide.
He even uses that famous historical reference, right? The state of Yu lending a path to Jin.
Yes, the Lacha. It's the ancient equivalent of handing your enemy the blueprint and the materials to build a superweapon just because you hope they might use it on your other enemy first.
A terrible idea. For anyone listening, the story ends with Jin immediately turning around and conquering the state of Yu that had foolishly enabled them.
So Li Jing is basically calling Li Mi a historical fool. He brands him a fool. It means a mediocre, a useless person, a strategic dullard. And that label is so damning. It doesn't just call him a bad commander. It questions his basic capacity for leadership.
He can't even manage his own resources.
Exactly. And this is where Li Jing pivots. He goes from this high-level critique to tactical manipulation. He abruptly turns the interrogation into a crisis. He snaps.
Right. He starts listing all of Li Mi's other mistakes and then condemns Jia He, not for being a spy, but for this tiny technicality of straying into the Tang fleet's path.
And sentences him to immediate execution. Take him out and execute him now.
It's a breathtaking gamble. If Jia Runfu is the key to understanding your enemy's collapse, why risk killing him in a fit of, well, manufactured rage?
It looks reckless, I agree. But I think Li Jing understood the value of high-stakes theater. He needed to assess not just what Jia Runfu knew, but who he was. Think about it. Jia Runfu just revealed his own master is a strategic imbecile. Li Jing wants this guy on his side. But talent is useless without conviction, without composure.
So the execution is halted at the very last second.
The very last second. Li Jing personally unbinds him and explains the whole thing was a test of your character, a terrifying psychological screening.
And he justifies it by saying he's honoring the Qinwang's desire to seek out worthy people. He needed to see how Jia Runfu acted when facing death. Did he beg? Did he panic?
Or did he maintain his honor? It's a masterful piece of leadership. It establishes Li Jing as this discerning, fair, but totally uncompromising general, the total opposite of the erratic Li Mi.
And by passing this test, Jia Runfu gains his respect.
Instantly. And this dramatic relief, this high emotional context, is what allows the full intelligence report to just spill out. The temperature's already high because other key figures arrive, and they hear devastating news.
That Qin Huaiyu's famous father, Qiong, is in prison.
Yes.
And that detail, it's vital. The imprisonment of core generals, Jing Chang, Wei Xuancheng, Xu Maogong, it confirms Li Mi's instability. Jia Runfu says that Li Mi, fresh off a military defeat, took out his frustrations by locking up his most capable people.
I mean, it's the definition of a commander eating his own tail.
And the root cause of all this instability goes right back to that grain transaction.
It's an escalating catastrophe. Jia Runfu admits he had pleaded with Li Mi not to do it. He argued that lending grain to Wang Shichang was literally arming a thief.
But Li Mi didn't listen. He cut the loan in half, but still ignored the fundamental warning.
He listened to the messenger, but not the message.
But the disaster goes beyond bad strategy. This is where the story takes a sharp turn into the bizarre.
Into the superstitious, yeah. It shows how the rot was systemic.
Not only was the loan a bad idea, but the day the grain was dispensed violated a specific powerful taboo, a ban on opening the granary on a Jiashen day.
And for the people at the time, this wasn't just, bad calendar management. This was seen as a profound spiritual offense, an offense against the will of heaven.
And whether you believe in omens or not,
the universe seemed to offer immediate, horrific confirmation. Right after this taboo violation, the key granaries were ravaged by pests. But these were not common mice.
No, the source describes them as scaled rats.
Scaled rats. It says they had 2 wings, fish scales, they were flying, and they consumed a staggering 80 to 90% of the stored grain.
80 to 90%. That sounds like something from an apocalyptic prophecy.
It does. But it was physically crippling Li Mi's state. They didn't just nibble, they devoured the very foundation of his war effort. This completely undermined any claim he had to the mandate of heaven.
So how does a leader even respond to something so absurdly catastrophic?
With utter desperation. His solution was arguably as absurd as the problem itself. He appointed one of his generals, Cheng Ziji, as the cat-collecting commandant.
The cat-collecting commandant.
Can you just imagine the paperwork?
That title alone captures the descent into madness. It sounds like a punchline, but the consequences were very real.
Extremely real. It wasn't a humble request, it was a tax. Every single household had to turn in 1 cat or pay a steep fine of 10 ship of rice.
So he's not solving the problem, he's just shifting the cost of his failure onto the starving population.
Which further alienated the very people he needed to govern. And the outcome. The source delivers the final, devastating punchline to this farce.
The cat-collecting commandant failed.
Completely. The rats were too numerous, and the cats and rats, it says, merely slept together. It's this perfect symbol of his failing rule. His solutions were as broken as his strategy.
And all the while, the external pressure is mounting.
Oh, yeah. While the internal system is eating itself, another warlord, Zhao Shi, shows up. He's demanding an even larger amount, 50,000 hu of grain, and threatening war if he doesn't get it.
So this combination of famine, spiritual offense, and military threats, it forces Li Mi to finally reverse his biggest blunder.
He has to. He releases the 3 imprisoned heroes, Qiong, Wei Xuancheng, and Xu Maogong. He needs them desperately.
Not just for their skill, but to manage the crises that he himself created.
Exactly. He immediately deploys them. Qiong and another general are sent to deal with Zhao Shi. Xu Maogong is sent to Liang, and Wei Xuancheng gets the grim task of guarding Luokang, the massive granary that's now mostly empty.
He's just sending his best talent out to put out the fires of his own incompetence.
Pretty much.
So Jia Renfu, having been captured, tested, and now released, has just laid out the entire case for Li Mi's collapse. He knows the granaries are empty, the judgment is flawed, the top generals are exhausted.
He acknowledges the obvious. He says Li Shimin and the Tang are clearly superior to the fractured Wagang. And he even admits he plans to tell Qiong to defect.
But only after he finishes his mission.
Exactly, after he finishes this desperate, hopeless mission. And Li Jing, hearing this, sees the opening. Why wait? Why go back to a sinking ship? He tries to persuade Jia Renfu to just switch sides now.
And Jia Renfu's response here is, I think, the single most important character insight in this whole story. It goes beyond the politics and gets to the heart of what loyalty meant.
It really does. He acknowledges he made a poor choice of lore. He says, I failed to choose my master well at the start, but he insists he must serve well until the end. He argues against defecting just for short-term gain. He says that moving based on rising or falling fortune is beneath a man of honor. He has to complete his mission even if it serves a doomed cause, because he gave his word.
And this adherence to commitment, even when it's potentially fatal, it just deeply impresses Li Jing.
It does. The master strategist, the man who stages a mock execution to test composure, expresses profound admiration. He realizes Jia Renfu isn't acting out of political calculation, but from this unbending moral code.
So he lets him go.
He lets him go is the ultimate validation. And then we see another act of loyalty from Lian Juzian. His loyalty is to his friend Qiong. So he agrees to go with the Tang group to check on the situation before he returns to Wagan to make sure the families are safe.
So loyalty isn't always to the flag. Sometimes it's intensely personal.
To friends, to family, to the promise you made.